great lineup of individuals who've been doing this work for a very long time, servicing the greater Little Rock area and Arkansas as a whole. We have Metis of the Division of Diversity, Equity. We have Mr. Darren Morgan, who is our Arkansas Commitment Executive Director. And my little 2 cents. I've had the pleasure of being around these gentlemen for time now, and I'm thankful that they're my brothers in arms in this work. And while we know the statistics may be slanted in the number of individuals like ourselves in this work, we are still pushing this work forward, and that's why we're here tonight. So want to get started. Brother Pettis, Brother Morgan, if y'all have any thoughts before we begin, our candid conversation about college access, financial literacy, and pathway programs, the floor is yours.
Mr. Morgan.
I was going to let Nick start it off, but now, I just want to thank everybody for coming on. And I think the original intent of this is really just a discussion. So while we're talking, feel free to jump in, cut us off, ask questions. Even if you got to tell us what we're saying ain't right, feel free to hop in and contribute, because what we want is for this to really be an engaging conversation. We all can learn and grow from it. Nick.
Hey, absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Scales. Hey, 100 Black Men of Greater Little Rock, thank you for this time. And thank you all that are here right now at, 6:08 p.m. after a rainy day, here for this candid conversation. I say the same thing that Mr. Morgan just stated. Feel free to chime in. I'm the manager of diverse student recruitment here at UAMS, and it takes a village. It still takes a village. I'm not gonna jump into my little tangent, but it takes a village. So that's what we're here for. We're gonna have just a conversation, and we need you all's input as well. So look forward to it.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Before we start, kind of open the floor up, do we have any educators on the call with us today? Any educators?
You got one.
We have some educators.
Yeah.
We got some in the chat. Okay, got some in the chat. Hey, I see Ms. Swain. See Mr. Lane. I see our friend in arms, Dr. Nicole Griffin. We got some educators in arms. So as they said, this is an open conversation, you all. It's needed, and I'm glad we're able to have it tonight. So we'll begin. Obviously, you want to set the tone with who are our students. Obviously, we've all grew up in a different world, in a different time, and the students that we serve, the students that may be your children, the students that you connect with or mentor, hey, they are of a different breed. And the students that we work with on a daily basis are considered Generation Z. Studies have shown that one in four people of color, 1 in 4 people are Gen Z. Gen Z were born in between the ages of 1995 and 2010. Many Gen Zs could be first generation, whether that's first generation college student or first generation American citizen. That's an outlier that we don't consider. Our students could be underrepresented. They are mobile natives, digital natives, if you will. They've been born into this virtual world their whole life. They do value input from their peers more than their parents and or other models. So again, they're a different breed. They grew up in a recession era, so they are more focused on saving money. I'm not going to say necessarily for the right reasons, but they are focused and have an entrepreneurial spirit. and care about personalization and authenticity. I think that's definitely, you know, the scholars that we work with on a daily basis, they definitely have some uniqueness to them. And we got to understand that they were Gen Xers. So while we're having this discussion, know that engagement is at the core of everything that we're speaking to. And as a parent, as a mentor, as an educator, those engagement measures may be different from student to student.
Just want to throw this in there. This generation, you know, Gen Z, outside the box thinkers. And I say that for this reason. When you think about it, they're going to ask that question, why? And maybe for parents, you can get away with because I said so. But for professional and everything on that level, college, if it don't make sense to them, you're gonna start to lose them quick. They'll disconnect. I've been around these young folks, and you could be giving them a lecture, and these things right here, they'll start shooting messages like, "Hey, you got that?" And if you don't watch it, and you don't connect to them, hey, they'll disconnect quick. So just outside the box thing, I just want to throw that out there. Go ahead, sir.
That's great. That's great. There's great value there. Any other thoughts, whether personal or professional, in the students that we serve? I know we have some educators on the call. Okay. Well, we're gonna move forward. Obviously, to know where we need to go, we need to know where we are. I've retrieved some data from Ed Trust that speaks to the state and equity of our scholars from an attainment standpoint. You know, these are just outliers that'll kind of be guiding numbers in our discussion. It's very important to consider, you know, if we're talking about college access and pathways, you know, a lot of these numbers aren't favorable in us making it to and through. So, you know, take some time to absorb this information, because ultimately the very scholars that you serve or your children, they will be coupled into this degree attainment, enrollment, representation, degree earner in college affordability. And we know a lot of students like this. I was one of these students, you know, so perspective hits home when I look at these numbers. And, you know, outlier wise, this is for the state of Arkansas. I wonder what it would be by county, you know, so like if you take a deeper dive in it by county, to kind of see what a real true number is. So that's food for thought for me. You know, the floor is open for a discussion in regards to the numbers and how it impacts you or what you're looking at.
I just want to throw this out there. Also, we know that the Delta really is hit when you think about resources and students that are underserved. I know when we start, you know, when you start to get into county, these numbers, whoo, let me calm down. But just looking at these numbers, I want to bring up the fact of our spring enrollment here at UAMS, right? And so this is out of 2,781 students this spring 2021, right? And so we got 9% African-American, I'm sorry, not male, but African-American students. 46 are African-American male, 193 of the 2,781 students is African-American female. And when we look at our Latino out of the whole student population, we're talking about 6%, okay? 44 are male out of the 2,781, and 108 are female. And so when you're looking at the state of, you know, equity, you know, hey, looking at our report here, and you're looking and you see four-year institution enrollment representation. We're only pulling the students that's coming out, right? At those grades and at that percentage. So yes, we have work to do. I know I'm preaching to the choir. We have work to do. I see Mr. Henley on the line. Oh man, I know you. Hey, you feeling me over there? I know it. I got the amen chord over there. But I want to say this right here is powerful. Keep these numbers in mind as we go throughout the conversation.
Yeah, and while we're here too, I know this is about economic impact and why college is important, but I also think it has a political impact as well. And when we look at the degree earner representation, we got a B+ in associate's degree, D+ in bachelor's degree, and a D in bachelor's degree gap. Now, a lot of times we talk about college, we talk about it as far as how much money can a kid get after they graduate, right? We always loop it back to the lifetime earning rate for colleges and all that, and that's cool. But I think politically, we got to think about it too. And people that get bachelor's degrees and go through college, they're less likely to commit crimes. They're more likely to vote. They're more likely to volunteer in community programs and social events. They have higher levels of economic growth. And then on top of that, they have better birth outcomes for their kids, and they prepare their kids better for the school process. So it's really a cycle in that. And I agree with, I think that was Al Moore with Nick's energy. I need like half of that. So I would be in a much better spot if I could bottle that. But yeah, I think we got to think about it from a political spot too. You know, it's not just about whether kids go to college or not. It's not whether about how much money they make afterwards. But living in a red state with everything that's going on now, is also important to get more civic engagement from these kids.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Great call out there, on both parts. And just the next slide of definitely,
Can you wait on that slide? So my name is Henry North, and I actually work at Harding University. And I have a question. Go back to the previous slide, Brother Stills. So when I don't know the numbers, but the community and tech colleges say we have A+. Does that mean we have a lot of African Americans in community college?
Yes,
that's what. And when you look at the degree earners, B+. So when I look at the four-year institutions, it seems like there's a lag in, do Black people, African Americans stop at community college or tech colleges? I don't know this question, and you or the other panelists might know it. And if not, if so, that's something we may need to work on.
Yeah, that's a great call out. I would say in my experience, I spent a few years as a college recruiter, and we seen opportunities where a scholar would go to a four-year institution, get there their first semester, and by the spring semester, they're at the 2-year institution. Mm-hmm. And they don't, once they finish the 2-year, they don't go back to the 4-year. And what you'll see is that 2-year institution gets credit for that student finishing there, but they don't go back. Mm-hmm. I think, as we get down the line, I think there's some support system pieces there that are very important. Again, you may be dealing with some first generation students who may not know how to navigate those waters, or they may who the point person on that campus is. And obviously when we're talking about 2-year, 4-year universities, if you are, 6% of the population and that student affairs office doesn't have anybody that look like you in there, now these other layered emotions and feelings, these other things arise, and you got little Johnny who is out of place now because they have no representation in the space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I understand. Sorry. I'll let y'all talk.
No, go ahead.
No, I said I understand what you're saying. But I don't really know it because the schools I went to, everybody was pretty much Black. So I don't know. So I don't understand that. But there is a problem here with the community colleges versus 4 institutions. There's a problem.
So
Go ahead. No. You got it. You got it.
All right. So I'm not sure if everybody knows me and my background, but Again, I'm Darren Morgan. Before moving to Arkansas, I was an assistant dean of admissions and financial aid at Davidson College, North Carolina. I think at the time it was ranked number 7 as far as liberal arts. So it was one of those top tier colleges. And going around, and now what I do is I work with Black students to prepare them for entry into schools like WashU, like Stanford, Yale, and all those great schools. And 2 things that I've seen from the Black community when it comes to community colleges and pushing kids towards that, as opposed to 4-year. I mean, we know our people. When we talk about Black people, you know, we follow the money regardless. And when we counsel our kids on how to go to college and if they should go to college or a 4-year school, we always talk about money before we talk about anything else. Look at that tuition. You can save so much money if you go to a community college, and then we tell kids to transfer after a year. But let's be realistic. Once you get there for a year and you get comfortable and you get settled in, you're not going to transfer. You know, and plus, if you do, in some cases, those credits won't transfer over. So you're gonna have to start all the way over. So if you get hit with that situation as a 19-year-old kid that already spent, let's say $5,000 for community college classes, you're not gonna go ahead and be like, all right, I'm gonna eat that 5,000 and take that loss. You know, 5,000 is pretty much everything to a 19-year-old kid. So they're gonna go ahead, they're halfway done with that 2-year associate's degree. So they're gonna go ahead and polish off that other degree. At that point, they're not going to go to a 4-year college. They have the degree, they got that paper, they already started working, and everybody on this call knows once you start working, it is hard going back to grad school, you know, or school period. The other thing that we do is we undermatch consistently in this community. And I'm not just talking about Arkansas, I mean Black people in general. I'm from Atlanta, we see that all the time. And it's really about, when I say undermatching, it's when students, let's say the valedictorian at a school that could get into a Harvard, when they decide to go to a Georgia State, you know what I'm saying? And it's really because they're scared of taking that chance. They feel like they don't belong at those schools or those institutions. So they opt down. And when they do that, students that undermatch have an 80% chance of not graduating because they get bored when they're on campus. They feel like it's not worth the money, so they drop out. So that's another reason why that 4-year institution rate is so low, because we do undermatch. We have some bright kids here that could get into any school they want to, but Arkansas kids opt to stay in state. When we look at the selective institution gap down there, we see the state has an F for selective institutions. So if a bright kid like that wants to stay in state, just looking at the data, they're gonna have to undermatch. It saves money, but the kid doesn't get the full experience and opportunities they would have had they gone to a Stanford, Yale, or something else.
And to that point, and I know Nick has some, but I want to jump on that.
I think
you talk about the selective. Sorry,
or,
can you hear me?
I do. I can.
Yeah, to that selective institution gap point, you know, in as well. You know, when recruitment season happens, those selective colleges, they here for a day or 2 days. And they're out of here, you know, like they're looking for, you know, when they're at the big fair, you know, they'll tell you, hey, I'm leaving at 7 o'clock. You know, I'm getting out of Arkansas. So then, you know, myself, Darren, you know, we've kind of corralled the masses that go to these fairs. But if the selective colleges are in this time gap and they're just trying to serve you, then you miss those other engagement opportunities, you know, by developing their relationship, which I think will be a driver in the bigger conversation. So, you know, to the selective gap institute, to the selective gap point, scholars also have to, you know, jump out your step out on faith and kind of in that college search, take some chances on some other schools other than those Arkansas schools, so we can create a bigger pipeline of selective colleges that want to come and visit more often other than a bigger career fair.
Yeah, and I missed the first half of that because my speakers went out, but I actually used to recruit out here, and I can talk about how we work. I was guilty of doing exactly what Wendell said in that last piece. I would come out here, you know, in Georgia, when I would recruit out there, I would be out there for 2 months. In New Jersey, I would dedicate about 2-3 weeks out there, travel the whole state. When I came to Arkansas, I'm only out here for 2 days. I'm flying in on Sunday, hitting as many schools as I can on Monday, normally about 4. So I'm hitting the private schools. If I have time to hit maybe a Central or a Park View on Tuesday, I'm gonna hit those. And I think at the time, and it's sad that I noticed, the last flight out of Arkansas was at like 6:15. Whatever I had to do, I'm making sure I'm at the airport at 6:15. You know what I mean? So what happens with that though is we don't spend that much time out here because colleges is a business. We operate like a business. We need, we have to follow the market trends. So if we're looking at our numbers and we're seeing no kids are enrolling at our school from a state, we're not going to come out in the state. And I'm gonna talk about that in a little bit when I hit my slides, but you know, that's just, it's a cycle. It's a dangerous cycle. And it really involves kids being able to, or willing to look at schools outside of just this immediate area.
Mhm.
And I have to throw this out there. You have to have a support system. Your network equals your net worth. And so is it Dr. North or just Henry, Mr. North?
Miss Doctor.
A doctor, okay.
Mhm.
Dr. North,
Mhm.
want to say this.
It could be missed also, but I'm
Hey, you're a doctor,
I am.
you going with it. We going with it. You going with it,
I've
sir.
been one for so long now. It's
Hey,
not
Doc.
nothing.
Dr. North,
Yes, sir.
you know the answer to this, but just want to be open about it. I understand there's a lot of variables attached to this. Especially when we talk about African American, Latino.
Mhm.
We talked about the generational barriers and things of that nature, the thought process, perspective. But the angle I'm going to come from, we talked about the money. We stated and even talked about the imposter syndrome of all of this as well. You may go to you may have went to an HBCU student and had that culture, that ecosystem of support. When I look at this enrollment representation and I look at the degree earner representation, I also think about my family members that started, but they didn't finish. And life situation and circumstances popped up and family wasn't able to support them along the way. So whether it was work or opting out to go to a college of health professions where all I needed was just that first year and a half to go get a job, to start working, and then I'll go back, that number diminishes because now I'm getting pressure from family, right? And we've already addressed that, but that's a major ordeal when you think about your network, and then also students in grade school not having that solid foundation, and then get into that chemistry, that organic chemistry, those sciences, and or that college algebra, and it's like, hold on, I didn't take this, I just took regular. What is this? You start hitting those classes and you have to take it 2-3 times.
You understand?
And so, hey, Doc, and we'll get off of it. So yeah,
No, I
but
understand what you're saying.
it's variables. It's variables, and I digress. Man, this is awesome.
Yeah. Hey, keep the energy flowing, my brother. I knew you was gonna come with it. But obviously, when we're talking about African Americans, we also, we got to speak to the Black and Brown community as a whole, Latinos as well. Similar situations, a little, lower in some circumstances, but the outlier is they have a enrollment of a A+ in 4-year institutions, and they take chances with selective colleges, and they have a C in the bachelor degree gap. So they're taking more chances, and they're saying, hey, that community college route, that's okay. I'm gonna go get this 4-year in this and bet on myself with this selective space and finish on the front end. So that, to Nick's point, that is, that's the varying difference. They're still being impacted, but ultimately they're taking a bigger risk on themselves to create that opportunity beyond.
And their risk leads to reward, looks like.
Yep. Let's go. And ideally, you all, when you think, and I know this Darren piece, but ideally, when you think about young scholars, you think about the ideal college applicant. So, Darren, if you could elaborate a little, in your experiences, and I'll be quiet.
Yeah, so I'm gonna be quick because I can start talking a lot when we get to this point. But so again, I came from a background of a highly selective school that practiced holistic admissions. And what that means for schools like the Ivies, the WashU, the Vanderbilts, they all practice holistic admissions, where we're looking at students from every aspect of their lives, from in the classroom, outside the classroom, all of that matters to us. So there's 6 things that we look for when we're assessing if a student should be admitted or not. And those things really make up the academic and personal profile of this student. And all the information we're trying to get to points to really 3 questions. Can the student do the work on our campus? Will they be successful in 4 years on our campus? And do they meet the basic requirements for admissions? So to figure out those 3 questions, we're looking at these 6 things. So rigor, how hard the classes are. And this is actually in order of importance for the school I used to work at too. So rigor, how many AP classes or IB classes do they have? Their GPA, of course, is self-explanatory, but something that schools never really think about is high school strength. A kid with a 4.0 at a school where 100% of the kids are going to a 4-year college, we know they earned that 4.0. If it's a school where only 20% of the kids are going to a 4-year college and they have a 4.0, that 4.0 is a little bit watered down, because at that point, if they went to school, didn't get in trouble, did their homework, they're gonna get an A. They may not have to work that hard, but they're gonna get an A. Next up is essays, because good writing in our mind is gonna equate to good thinking. So the way you can tell your story and put it down on paper is gonna help us out in the process. Community impact. So not just extracurriculars, but what kind of void is gonna be felt in the community when this kid leaves Little Rock to go to college? Or they leave their high school to go to Hendrix? How is that school gonna feel? Will they care? Will they notice this kid is gone? Will they leave a legacy? That's what we're looking for. And the least important thing to us, and the thing that we always talk about in this game, is the SAT and ACT scores. And for us, that was the least important. And you can see now, I think there's almost like 1,000 colleges that are now test optional, where they don't even look at the ACT anymore, right? So that shows you that we never really needed it. That test has always been culturally biased. The ACT was created in 1956, at a time when Black people couldn't go to college. We couldn't enroll. That test was created not to include people in that process, but to actually exclude people from being able to go. They wanted to keep it a homogenous community. Believe it or not, the essay actually has the exact same purpose. At a time when only white men were able to enroll in college, and this is a Christian country, with that essay, they were actually looking to see if any white students said anything about Jewish culture. And if they did, that was one way of excluding people. So those are 2 tools that have always been used to exclude. I'm happy to see that the ACT is now moving away, but the essay will probably be here for a while. Now, with the ideal college applicant, we want everyone to be equal. We want all these aspects, all 6 points, to look good. We want these kids to look good on paper. That doesn't always happen, but the great thing about holistic admissions is that if they're weaker on one side, like didn't take enough AP courses, but they have a 36 on the ACT, this seesaw will balance out a little bit. Can you go to the next slide for me, Wendell?
Yep.
All right, so with the ideal college applicant, right, it seems like it would be really easy to look perfect on paper all the way across, right? We're not asking for too much. We're not asking you to do anything amazing. We're not even asking for a 36 or a 4.0. But a lot of students have a really hard time getting that because there are a lot of barriers that are blocking them. I summed up the top 3 barriers that I see working with my students and in the community. And number 1 is the lack of awareness concerning admissions and financial aid practices. We can't properly prepare if we don't know. And again, going back to that cycle we talked about earlier, that's mostly because colleges won't come to the state to recruit like that. So what happens is the admissions counselors that have all the information don't give the information to our public school counselors. So that information will never trickle down to the students. Part 2, the students are overwhelmed by the process. And that's more or less a lack of guidance. And again, that's a part of that cycle because the colleges don't come, the high schools don't have this information. So the kids are left feeling confused and left out. And the last thing we kind of tapped on it earlier is, believe it or not, geographic location. and undermatching. And I don't want you to think about it like because we're in Arkansas, our kids want to go to Arkansas. But when they ask around their parents, the people they respect in the community about where'd you go to school, how was college like, you know, our adults always tell kids, oh, I had a great experience. You know, I went to Philander, went to Hendrix, went to UAPB, but these are all local schools. So if a kid, I've had this happen a couple of times. I've had kids that gotten full rides to Rhodes and Swanee and Agnes Scott and Emory and all these great schools, but they turned down full ride scholarships to go in-state to pay. And it's mostly because their parents or someone in their church told them, I went there and I did great. Or we point to that one person that we know that went to this one school and they turned out great, you know? And that's great for them. But it's also time to kind of cut the cord a bit and let the kid kind of experience life and get some new opportunities. You should want your kids and the kids that you work with and mentor to have a better experience than you did, to have more opportunities than you did. And while you may have had a great experience, sometimes it's good to let them try different things. But these are the top 3 barriers. And again, at the bottom, we see that cycle. You know, the students can't get the information because they're not enrolling or applying to schools, you know, the big elite colleges and the Ivies. The school systems don't get this information because the colleges don't come, and it just repeats. But in this process, I honestly feel like the students are in the best position to break out this cycle. The colleges won't do it because they're generated by money and it's a business. The school systems can't do it because sometimes their hands are tied by politics. But the students are able to kind of break out from that, and they're able to say, all right, I want to give this a shot. I want to take more of the hard classes or whatever. So it's the students that's really going to change this process for everyone.
Absolutely. I just want to throw this in here. It's also a role that everyone on this call, we can help break and tear down a lot of these barriers by having an impact on the young people, whether it's the Boys and Girls Club, whether it's your church, because each and every last one of us on this call know individuals at other institutions, in state, out of state, across the country, and some of us even in other countries. And so with that, we can help. I see we got a hand raised. Doc.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so my thing is what Darren just said. Oh, I'm sorry. Good evening. My name is Nicole Griffin. I'm college and career readiness coach at East End High School. Don't start, Nick. Lord have mercy. So I'm gonna be honest. I've been doing this 19 years. I just met Darren 4 years ago. It wasn't until I met him that my eyes were actually open to the things that the college, the kids need per se to go out of state, to the PWIs. So a lot of the kids that I have served have always wanted to either go to HBCUs, a 2-year school, or go directly into some type of trade because of their background. And then when I met Wendell, who actually introduced me to Darren, he started talking to me about, broadening, my horizons and teaching them other things. So Darren started coming to the classroom and teaching these kids. So even today, when we start talking about Dream Matching Safety Schools, and when they were like, oh my God, it's so expensive to go out of state. And I said, no, it's not, because you got the 100% need-based schools, which I just learned 4 years ago because of these two guys. So we have more college and career readiness counselors, or they're informed and they actually care about the students. It can change the entire dynamic. So I applaud what you guys are doing, even with having settings like this, where you're actually having an open forum versus someone just talking, and we're not expressing ourselves, so that we can implement some of this change.
Great call out there. And, it's always a pleasure to have Ms. Dr. Griffin on a call. This lack of awareness concerning admissions, that is probably the biggest hurdle in every school that we, myself, Darren, Nick, Ms. Griffin, we are faced with, because, statistics show that, for every student is for every counselor students. You know, so where that the time and attention gonna come? And what I have found is it's not the top that you got to worry about. Is you gonna spend your time dealing with the low hanging fruit that you gotta, hey baby, hey, why you miss school? Hey, you gotta turn in this work. And then you got that middle group. That in that middle group, that's the group that you need to be betting on. Group gonna win. That middle group is from I'm gonna say 285 to 3.4. They got grit, they talented, they got everything that many times that top 25 don't have. They got resolve, they got it all. And we counselors in the space limit that relationship time because you got that top 5 who knocking on your door, sending you an email every day because they helicopter kids, you know, and ain't nothing wrong with that. And you know, many times these students in those gaps are the underrepresented. They might have 2 or 3 extra jobs. They might be the only adult in the house. You know, they got grandparents that's raising them. So you got, you know, this cycle now. So by the time you get to 3, undermatch is the option, you know. Yep. So undermatch is the option. I've been with scholars who parents, they the kids to their parents' kids. Oh, yeah. I can't go nowhere. I gotta stay in Arkansas. I'm the babysitter for my parents.
Yep.
It's interesting you said that because that's what I was about to say, because I work at Lisa Academy, Lisa West. And Lisa West is probably the largest of the Lisa Academies. And our dynamics have changed tremendously over the 10 years I've been working there. And we have a lot. And it's crazy you say that because sometimes as teachers, we may not be the counselor, but we have to reach those kids. Those are the kids you see every day. You know, having to encourage kids to, hey, because I've taught all the way up to calculus. And there are kids who I've literally had to convince to take algebra in middle school. Had to literally just convince them because they're bound and determined, oh, I'll just take the easier thing because it's easier to do. And I've even had to convince parents, hey, let them take the advanced class. They're capable of it. Even if I gotta tutor you every day, I'll do it. But they're capable of it. And then you also have, our Hispanic population has skyrocketed at Lisa. And a lot of our situations they are like parents to their siblings. Yep. And so it's kind of like, I can't go anywhere, they're stuck because I can't go anywhere because they have so much responsibility. And it's shocking sometimes how many are unofficially working, but they working in middle school, holding full-fledged jobs. We had a kid, real talk, we had a kid whose father passed this school year, and it was like, he is the man of the house now. Yeah. And he's in middle school.
And that kid with a little guidance would get full aid. Because his story alone is what an admissions officer saying, hey, we gotta have him. We gotta have him. He gonna get it done. He can get through adversity, you know, and because that was me. Man, I was the hey, I got through it, finished high school with a 2.85. I had some family adversity, you know, some illnesses, was working early. But when I got to college, and I was like, oh, this ain't hard. You know, like they complaining about this. Man, I had to leave football practice to go to work. Like, what? Y'all complaining about this? You know, so when you get to that, we got to put our scholars in a position to embrace new experiences. You know, that economic, this all correlates with economic development. Like the scholars are developing their own ecosystem, but if they don't get out of the current ecosystem, they never get to have their own ecosystem. So this barrier conversation is a deep one. To your point, Ms. Swain, you know, I think that this college admissions and financial aid conversation is bigger than just the college councils in the building, and it needs had on a broader level with the teacher, because the teachers are the primary point of contact. When we get rec letters, we looking at the rec letters from the teacher 9 times out of 10. You know, they see the kid every day. They can tell the true story. A counselor who got 250 other students, 9 times out of 10 gonna write a blanketed email, generic essay,
Copy and paste it.
copy and paste it.
Oh man.
You know. So you in these situations now where you an admissions counselor and you like, ooh, 4.0, little Johnny is in every club, little Johnny, you know, and you get that 100 times.
And
you know,
and to Wendell's point real quick too, now that the ACT is going away, these colleges are actually going to be looking at the teacher recs to kind of fill in the gap for student performance. So the relationship with teachers is going to be very important moving forward, because I really feel like they're about to just keep doing away with the ACT until it's not there anymore.
Yeah.
And actually, just in the interest of time, we can skip this slide right here.
Okay.
Kinda
We
go
good on
down.
time. I think we good. I gave us an extra 30 on the back end because I felt we was gonna get into this space, but we good.
Nah, I love this space right here though. So I
Okay.
can't remember, I think it was Ms. Swain that just said that, or maybe it was Wendell, but this conversation is way bigger than just the people here. It's bigger than the teachers. And personally, I feel like change needs to happen on the state level. And the real problem, to be honest with y'all, from my experience with colleges and working with deans and presidents of colleges, when we look at kids from Arkansas, they're simply just not admissible to our schools for a lot of different reasons. But the number one is the curriculum that we give students in this state doesn't match up with the admissions requirements for top tier colleges. Now I get a lot of pushback when I say that, but now I got visuals to kind of show you what I'm talking about. So, you know, in the state of Arkansas, the SMART course system, we got 4 levels of English that kids have to take, 4 math, 3 sciences, 3 social sciences, no foreign language taken in the high school through 9th and 12th grade. Now, to the right side, I put Washington St. Louis's admissions requirement up. And we can already see the difference right here. 4 years in English, 4 years of math. They say 3 or 4 years, but they really mean 4 years because that 4th year is an optional of science, 4 years of social science, and 2 years of a foreign language taken between 9th and 12th grade. Now, if we just hit that foreign language component, any kid in the state of Arkansas that took Spanish 2 in the 8th grade and didn't feel like taking it in high school, they still graduate, but they are automatically denied at every college out of state at WashU's caliber. So that's scary. Even if a kid has a 4.0, 36 ACT, just the fact that they didn't take these basic classes, they're denied. Colleges, we practice what's called the 5-4 rule. And some of y'all have heard me talk about that a lot, but we expect and demand 5 core classes taken for 4 years straight. For every time a kid doesn't take that, we call it a hole in your transcript. So if a student didn't take foreign language for 4 years, that's 4 holes on the transcript. Every hole reduces their GPA by 0.27 points. So 4 missing foreign language classes, their GPA automatically drops over 1.0. If we factor in the fact that they only took 3 levels of science, 3 social science, that's 2 more holes. We're looking at a 1 point, Miss Swain is a math person, she can do the math real quick, but at least a 1.5 drop in GPA. So your kid with a 4.0 is now looking at a 2.5, which is terrifying in that process.
And to echo that, if you are a counselor in the public school, it's a rat race now because you're trying to manage the kids and you can counsel them, but again, to the other point about Gen Z, they look at what their friends are doing, and if I can get out of everything by my junior year and I got English and math left, why should I have to take anything else? Why I gotta take an extra math? I earned it. You know, I hear it all the time. Well, I earned this. And truthfully, you haven't earned anything yet, you know, so the conversations in my office become, you got to start thinking about life beyond these walls and life beyond Jacksonville, because if you haven't earned nothing yet, period.
If you're thinking about anything in science, technology, engineering, or math, and you already have those holes against you, it starts to speak back to those numbers about that 4-year degree. You know, it goes right on back to that, because I know in medical school here at UAMS, we go back to the rigor instead of high school strength. Start looking at college strength, all of those same indicators, the MCAT and what it's used for. You know, hey, the barrier, a student can do the work, it's proven. But if you're not hitting, you know, that 510, you're not even admitted. Some students ain't even looked at. And so it's, I mean, hey, not to get ahead, but when we look at this, as we start to go to the professional schools, the numbers are extremely critically low. And I know Dr. Henley, he can speak to it about engineering. And so it takes the village. A state level, community, legislature, it's gonna take all of us.
And if I can add to it real quick, and you know, we talk about getting into college, we talk about professional school, we focus a lot on what's gonna happen in the next 4 years. We never really talk about the next 40 for these students. And we talk about getting jobs and careers and all that good stuff. We never really hit that. But for anybody on here that's ever worked, I know here we got like 2 engineers on here. It's not that much diversity, right? And we can't blame these corporations, to be honest with you, because when we look at what they require for entrance into their jobs in order to be employed, they want people that came from the best colleges that got the best education, right? Those colleges want kids that took at least 4 APs and that took that 5-4 path all through high school. And we've been telling these kids since 1st grade that you don't have to, you know, take those really hard classes, protect your GPA, you know, get that 4.0, do what you got to do on that one. If you take the easy one and then do well in the ACT, and now that ACT is test optional, like they don't care about that one anymore. We've been telling our kids the wrong thing. For Gen Z, they've been hearing this since 1st grade that GPA, ACT scores are important. And now we're twisting it up in the 11th and 12th grade. They're not going to believe us anymore. It's that cognitive dissonance. They're like, what are you talking about? You know, so it's, if we really want these kids to be able to get these high paying jobs, it's going to raise the GDP for the state of Arkansas, then we have to start kind of pushing them into these harder classes. But what we're doing is the opposite, I feel. You know, we're giving kids the option to go home in their senior year, to hop in internships. And if I was a 17-year-old kid and I had a choice between going home and staying in school, I'm going home, you know? So it's just, you know, it's common sense. So I think that's something that we have to change. And again, that's a state level policy. But we can tell our kids what these colleges expect and what these employers expect and hope that they do the right thing until policy changes.
Well, go ahead, Ms. Wayne, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, just from a student perspective, so I have 2 different levels of students. I have the kids who I have a class with, like all Hispanic kids, but then I have the kids that have all my little Indiana Asian kids. And they don't even in middle school, they don't even think on that level. They know today that they want to be what kind of surgeon. They know today they don't just want to be a doctor. They know exactly what kind they want to be. They know this, and it's kind of like by 8th grade, they're self-propelled because in those younger ages, they're in Kumon, they're in whatever it is. And it's like, it was a conversation I was having with a parent today, is that I feel like we don't push them enough, because I majored in engineering. You don't just take algebra 2 in high school and think you're gonna fly in engineering, because all you're taking is calculus. And that's why it goes back to pushing our kids to take those higher level courses, because you have kids who only want to take algebra 2, but their aspirations are I want to be an engineer, I want to be a doctor. And I was like, what doctor do you know only thinks on an algebra 2 level? I don't want you working on me if your thought process is on algebra 2 level. These are conversations where I feel like we start to patronize them a little bit because they have these super high aspirations and these itty bitty work ethics. And it's
Mhm.
kind of like, and instead of just being honest, they're just laughing at me, but real talk, instead of
No,
being
we felt
honest,
that on the spiritual level right
right,
there. All of us
if
did.
2 steps is, because I teach math, and you know, it
Uh-uh.
gets harder and harder. And if 2 steps is too many, what is a long calculus problem across the board? And then when you get to school, you can't function with the rest of the people, even though your heart really wants to be an engineer, but your skill's not there. And I don't think they understand the balance sometimes between your skill and your desire. You got to have both.
Mhm. Mhm.
So how do we implement this on the state level? I mean, because we can talk about it all day long, we can complain for hours, but what is the next step to putting this into motion? That's my question. Because I mean, we all have experienced this. We're all in education in some way, shape, form, or fashion. What do we do, Darren, to help support you to get this done on the state level?
Yeah, I'm just starting with that process. I've been meeting with some of y'all know, with CEOs of charter schools and the superintendents of certain school districts out here to try to convince them to kind of change that. I've had think sessions and tanks. I've brought in Princeton, the deans of admissions at Princeton, Johns Hopkins, and a few other colleges to meet with superintendents out here so they can change the policies in them.
Mhm.
But from what I'm seeing, their hands are tied by the state. So
Mhm.
right now I'm drafting a policy document that hopefully we'll be able to present to the legislator and we'll be able to change something. But we need more motivation, more support.
Mhm.
The teachers, y'all have a huge voice in this process. So any kind of, just noise y'all make will be helpful on that one.
Mhm. Yeah, whatever we can do on that end, Aaron.
Right.
Because
Absolutely.
this definitely is a dire, it hits us, and ultimately it affects them long term. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you can't do the
Mhm.
rigor now, how is this going to seep into your work life balance as a professional? How this going to seep into
Exactly.
your relationship practice? How this going to seep? It's an overarching effect. So whatever we can do to support you there.
Appreciate that. Appreciate it, y'all. I'm gonna show y'all one more slide too, and I'm gonna be quiet and turn it over to Nick real quick.
You
All right, so
can't be
this is-
quiet, baby. This is awesome.
So this is one of the most concerning slides. So when I first moved here, I pulled the data and stats from a lot of different school districts in this area just to see how Black kids were performing just across the board. And like I said, the first thing that colleges look for is rigor. Those elite colleges are looking at rigor. Employers are looking at rigor because that means preparation. And when you look at Black students in this area, so on the left slide, that's female students enrolled in advanced placement courses from 2010 to 2014. It's a little bit outdated. Highly doubt the numbers have changed that much though. And we see on the left side, Black women are only taking AP classes are rated 25%. On the right side, we see males, and Black males are only taking at a rate of 15%. So when colleges are looking to see who we're going to admit, we don't have that much to choose from the Black population out here, to be honest with you. And it's mostly because of the way that we've been counseling these kids to not take these AP classes, to protect your GPA. And we feel that kind of trickle down later on. It kind of ripples out when kids are starting to apply to colleges or they want to go to these big name schools and they're getting denied, and we can't figure out why. This is why right here. This is it.
Can I ask a question on that? When you look at when you call it Black people, are these actual Black people from slavery, or are these Black people like Africans, or is there a big African population in Arkansas?
Yeah, I'm not from here. I don't know about the
I'm not either.
Black population and the breakdown of it. I assume it's a lot of descendants of slaves, but I'm not 100%. But the data that I also pulled, so I requested that they send it to me by race, and this is the way it was sent. So Blacks were just grouped in together.
Yeah, it will be more helpful if they disaggregate that data.
Yeah.
Based on what I see at the collegiate level, if they did that, the Black students would be much lower than the percentages that you see.
Yes, I understand. I believe that, but that's hopefully push us to do a little bit more. Hopefully.
but in listening and with some of the things that I've encountered, it seems that we're playing by our old rule book. And you can't play the game if you don't know the rules.
Agreed.
If you go back and think about, if colleges are graded on 4, 5, and 6-year graduation rates, and you go to a community college, when you get to year 5 and 6, I'm not interested in whether you graduate or not. You don't matter. If I see you got 3 years left, but you're in year 5, I do not care. And it takes time to get that message out to students, to parents, to the business of education. It's a business, but if you know the rules, you can play the game. But about antiquated rules that, protect your GPA. When I was with Exxon for 15 years, I never worked with a valedictorian. Matter unless you're at the country club. And we need to say that to the parents. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. That GPA is only good for what, 6 months? Because relatives are hating on you because you got that GPA. So go ahead, put something in your head. But if we would get together, whether it's 100 Black men and have a seminar for parents that are interested in college, genuinely interested. If you're if you're going to major in a STEM field, there's nothing wrong with taking out a student loan. You betting on yourself. That's what it is. The other thing that irks me and I didn't mean to get on a.
No, hey, it's your time, bro. We need that.
But the thing that irks me is parents need to understand that this school is a job. Don't screw up their job. Don't call your kid at school about what Uncle Harry's doing.
Oh, wow.
Call your kid at school about your problems. This is their job, their opportunity to get out. And don't you muck it up by putting a whole lot of mud. Notice putting a whole lot of mud into their life, causing them stress. That's another issue. And so to me, if we tell the truth and not sugarcoat it, then I think the parents that are genuinely interested, you can start that ball rolling. I think economically, it is not the advantage of the state to have everybody go to college. It's not. Agricultural state. And so, thinking that the State Board of Education is going to listen, they'll listen, but they don't hear you. So I think to me, it's just doing it at a grassroots level where again, people understand the game. The more that a high school student has is when they graduate. Transfer students don't get a whole lot of scholarships. That's the game.
That's it.
So if you understand the game, then you can play your way around. And I think most of us played Monopoly long enough to understand you have friends that have shown you some new rules that you didn't know, and you don't get until it's done to you, like the money under free parking. The same thing for education. And I appreciate Darren putting the facts out there to me. And I've spoken to Miss Griffin's class many times, and I tell students, going to college is like finding the right pair of underwear. It's like finding drawers that fit good. Yours don't fit me, and mine don't fit you. And that's how they should look at college, that it's individual, that's what it is. And the things that are important to me are not important to you, and vice versa. So I think asking other people this or to help is a noble cause. But if you're going to look out for our people, then I think you have to do it at a grassroots level and say, look, whether it's 5 people, 2 people, 50 people, we're going to come talk to you about the truth about education. This is how it's viewed, and it is what it is. I mean, that's my 50 cents, and I'll go back.
some food.
Nah,
Hey,
I
hey,
think that
look,
was
look,
way
you made
more
a
than
dollar,
50
you
cents
want
right there.
Made a dollar, boy.
Yeah.
Hey,
So
that's real.
it definitely is. And I think, can you go one more time for me, Wendell?
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
Dr. Henley had a great point too, that the state is not going to help. You know, to be honest, it's a lot of politics. It's going to be decades before something actually changes. And not to get too political, not to sound too militant for y'all that know me, know how I normally operate anyway. But the way I see it, man, America is a business. You always gonna need the working ants to stay at the bottom, right? And it's no secret. Black people have always been the cog in this American machine that keeps it going. And they need us to be those worker bees. They need us to stay at the bottom. And we can look at this stat about APs and see, you know, we always point to that one person that made it or the few that made it. We're looking at those numbers right there, that 25% and that 15%. Everybody else is gonna stay, you know, in the blue collar jobs, and no offense to those, but you know, they're not gonna be able to get, well, they can, but it's gonna take a little bit more work to get to that level where they can get those 6-figure jobs. So if we really want to get our kids in a great position to be successful financially and get that financial freedom, we got to start by telling them what classes to take. But I agree, we definitely got to do on the grassroots level. Shameless plug for Arkansas Commitment. We're a free program. We help out, you know, teaching kids about the college process. There are 3 independent counselors in the state. 2 of them charge, and they're both based up in Northwest Arkansas. I'm the only one in Little Rock in the central area, and I don't charge a dime. So if you have kids, definitely let me know. I can help. We can go one more time. And I think I'm actually out of my slides.
Okay.
You're still living, baby. Yes.
Yep.
We can go one more time, Wendell.
Okay.
And I apologize to everybody. I'm gonna have to run in about 2
No, you
minutes.
good, brother.
But the last thing, to Mr. Henley's point, or Dr. Henley's point about paying for college, the rules have also changed a lot on this one too. Back when we were applying to school and we were trying to pay for college, everything was get a loan and that's it. But nowadays with need-based aid, you actually don't even have to get out loans. For families that make under $75,000 a year, and for some colleges under $100,000 a year, they will give you everything you need to go in grants or scholarship. I plugged Emory up here, is one of my partner colleges. They cost about $70,000 a year. For a student that makes, or a family that makes $50,000 a year, this kid, after all the grants and everything, this kid will only pay $3,000 a year to go to a school that costs $70,000. At that point, they don't even really have to take out a loan. Their work study can almost cover that. So financial freedom is possible, but we have to pick the right colleges for these kids. We can't keep sending them to the same schools. Just because we did fine and we got $100,000 in student loans, that don't mean we need to pass that burden down to our kids. But there are schools out there that have all this free money. Why not take advantage of it? It might not be the best experience. It might not be fun, but those 4 years to come out with a $250,000 education for free, it's going to be worth it. You know, it's not the HBCU, but with all that money saved up, if you want to move to Africa and be around all the Black people, you can do that with the money.
Say that, man.
Yeah.
You wasting your time doing that.
But to echo that, to echo what he's saying about the aid, you know, and to Mr. Henley, hey, I used to tell my kids, hey, you got 8 semesters, you better use them right.
Absolutely.
You got 8 semesters, you better use them right. And you gonna look up, like you said, if you on your fourth semester and you still at that 2-year school, it's a wrap, you know. So the game is changing. We gotta shift how we playing it, to Mr. Henley point.
And I just want to throw this out there. When you think about the professional school, you know, hey, whether it's nursing, I know, hey, get your BSN in that, but when you start thinking about nurse practitioner and you start thinking about everything, I'm at UAMS, I'm gonna talk healthcare. You pick up $150,000 for your undergraduate. Hey, this place right back there, they finna tax you for medical school, and those don't come with too many scholarships. And so they gonna say, hey, you're gonna have to take out some loan money, and you can actually cap yourself out depending on where you went to school. And then it costs to get in school, into medical school. There's a fee for that. And then while you're here, you're taking tests that you have to pay out and you have to live. And so you start thinking about that financial literacy piece to this.
Mhm,
A
mhm.
kid that talks about they want to be an engineer, want to be a doctor. Hey, there's a cost. And I always tell students this: you have to choose your hard. You have to intentionally choose that. You can say, "Oh, this hard, so I'm gonna stop." Oh, but life gonna get real hard.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
so, but yeah,
No.
Dr. North.
Oh no, I was looking at the Emory cost. That has me shocked. I'm one of those people that went to a state school. My parents pushed that because they went to state school. So I would have been at UAMS or University of Arkansas. So I couldn't imagine 69,000, even if Emory paid for it.
You know, it's crazy. That's actually not the most expensive college out there
I
right now.
know.
Duke is about 75, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, I have cousins
Um,
who went to those high price schools.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's ridiculous.
Yep.
But I apologize. I actually have to run, but I dropped my email address in the chat if anyone need to get in contact with me, and I also put my company's website. But feel free to reach out. Again, this is what I do. I don't charge, so if you want me to come talk to your students, your church, definitely let me know.
Yeah.
Hey, just want to throw this out there. Darren, you're a superstar. Man, I appreciate you. I appreciate you.
I just want to be like you and Wendell when I grow up, man.
Hey, many hands make light work. Many hands make light work.
Darren, we appreciate you, and maybe like we said earlier before the call, this may be the attempt to get the grassroots work going, so we can touch those other communities, community stakeholders. So again, thank you. We'll wrap. Hey, his email's in the chat. If you want to connect with him. He definitely will get back to you. He's a good brother. Appreciate you as always, man.
All right, appreciate that, y'all.
Griffin, I appreciate you as well.
Thank you for coming.
Yep.
Thank y'all.
Ms. Griffin, thank you so much. We'll talk.
All right, baby.
All right. And definitely want to, value everybody else's time. We got a few more slides we want to get through. Just, make sure we emphasize kind of where we are in this space. When we talk about addressing needs, I've been in this game almost a decade now, and these are some things that I've outlined with all of the shifts as well, with technology and innovation, that we've kind of spoke to or reiterated. Identifying student support systems. That's value number one. Ultimately, that the guideline between that is relationships. Whether you're a mentor organization, whether you a family friend, whether you connected, whether your network can help that young brother or sister. The counselor to student ratio. We got to acknowledge the caseload. Parents got to understand your scholar not the only one they trying to support, and they trying to support them with the limited resources that they have. So, you got to create some awareness opportunities for yourself as well. Digital access and application support. We spoke to this Gen Z population, but we also got to understand that there are going to be some margins where you got underrepresented students who may not have that access. We're seeing that right now with COVID, bandwidth issues, tech issues, and that stud senior who live in rural Arkansas who could be at the selective college don't even have the proper tools to fill out the application, or let alone get the support to get it done, which then leads to financial needs. So then they can't get the Emory scholarships and financial aid that Darren's speaking to. Reinforcing this parent engagement piece, and awareness, but ultimately correlating with these two that I think are very important. We got to ensure that these students, which Ms. Swain spoke on, we got to make sure we refine the student skill gaps, the math, the literacy, the internship opportunities. It ain't just community service, it's how you serving, so you can get the skill. And ultimately that leads to self-advocacy. At the end of the day, everybody on this call had a little extra in them to be in these positions that we are in. So that self-advocacy piece, that voice piece, that, you got to be a champion for self. Because if you're not a champion for self, the other things don't matter. So, for my parents on the call, for my mentors on the call, for my educators on the call, if we're not reiterating self-advocacy, then we're not doing our job as professionals, period.
What
Because
do you
when they
mean by
get
that?
you say
Sorry
what
about
now?
that. What do you mean by that, self-advocacy?
Well, just having some grit, having some, they call it self-authorship, if you will. Like, you should have to tell a student to do the things they're supposed to do. Like the student, this your job. Now,
Mhm.
if you the educator, you provide the resource you're supposed to provide. But to Mr. Henley point, this a job, and you got to treat it as such.
Yeah, the reason
Because
why I asked you that,
you said, well, now.
sorry, I don't want to take over. I said the reason why I asked you that, because I'm gonna say something. I probably sucked. If you met me as 18-year-old me, I probably sucked as a person. And the thing that helped me out along the way was there was always a support system of some sort.
Yep.
So I had a
Yep.
person like Dr. Henley, and I had a person like a Nick Pettis that helped me through. That's kind of how I got through it. My parents were very encouraging. I praise mom every day, my mom and my dad every day, because I would have never seen
Yeah.
myself where I am, and I don't think I'm that great. So that's why I said that.
No, and that's important, but again, it's one of the needs on the scale, like, and they got to balance out. You could have everything but one of these, and it may not work to be in your favor. You had the
Mhm.
luxury of having both your parents. That's a luxury in this world.
Yeah.
And I'll throw this out there. Hey, Dr. North, something that a lot of times we don't see within ourselves what we have had to overcome.
Mhm.
We don't see that. Matter of fact, it was just you grinding and just saying, hey, got to get done. So, hey, we're going to get it done. But also, I want to just throw this out here. When you think about it, your network equals your net worth.
I agree with that.
Okay. And so a lot of times when I think it was Miss Sane, she said, hey, these kids know what kind of doctor they want to be. Well, let's address that. If you look at the conversation that's had at the dinner table, and you look at, hey, my parents are researcher, so when they hand out books, hey, 3 times thicker than this thing, and they're in high school, in middle school, reading this kind of stuff, and the parents are like, hey, do you understand this? And they're like, hey, yes. And they're like, we're going to go back over this.
Yeah.
Having that privilege is game changing. Whereas this kid over here may have a parent that's working 2 jobs and they are the parent at home. We covered that. But when you look at that, I don't know what kind of doctor I want to be. I know I can get it done, but I don't even know the process. And so when you start thinking about these skills, you have to be plugged into a network, and that's what leads us into these pathway programs. And so, hey, are your high school students ready for the jobs of the future? And CEOs, some of you all have made that statement, like, hey, are they ready? And companies say no. You look at it, 4 out of 5 CEOs say the skill gaps in creativity and problem solving. Creativity and problem solving. These kids, I've had kids here create apps. And I know Mr. Henley, he've even had some like, hey, we can just kind of boom. So some of these kids have the ability that can problem solve. But if you're not challenging them to think outside the box and they want to take the easy road, hey, I'm going to just exit. We're not preparing them for future success. And so when we look at this post-secondary education, I mean, hey, it's going to be needed unless we're training our kids to be, and I'm saying it this way, I'm probably contradicting, but I'm not trying to. I'm going to say this. When you look at creativity, innovation, all of those outside the box thinking, I wonder how many of y'all got iPhone watches and all this kind of stuff. I remember when I was a kid, I used to see that stuff on Dick Tracy, cartoon. You used to talk to his car as a kid. That's a reality. So that's telling me that somebody at my age, if not probably a little bit older, sat back and said, hey, guess what? We can make this a reality, man. Look at the technology. Let's go ahead and start thinking about outside the box. Hey, what about this? And then working it. But you got to have those engineers. You got to have those folks that sit back. Hey, yeah, you can take this and tinker and you can get this done. Doctors, neurosurgeons, these folks, I met Dr. Yasagil. This man was way before, he was like man of the century, neurosurgeon. He came up with and invented tools. Doctors thought when, hey, he was doing how your patients heal so fast? He realized that the brain was set up in bands, that if you surgically go through the bands, if you cut through them, it's gonna take longer to heal. They're like tendons up in there, micro tendons. But if you move them out of the way and dissect properly, your patients will heal 3 times faster. He tried to publish that. They said, no, man, you crazy. 15 years later, they understood what he was talking about was factual. Our kids going through this pandemic, there's going to be innovation. It's already happening, that these young people, they're going to break all kind of boundaries. And so I'm excited about this. Pathway to Success starts with our young people. And I have you on there, but it starts with us, but it most importantly starts with them. And so as we look at this, hit the next slide. Here at UAMS, we have K through 16 pathway pipeline programs. We provide conferences in the fall for our health profession recruitment exposure program is for high school students, HPrep. These things were on campus. We used to do all of this on campus pre-COVID. Now it's virtual. And so all of this is healthcare related. We have a College of Medicine, pharmacy, public health. We have nursing. We have a College of Health Professions that have 16 different degree programs, a graduate school for research. And believe it or not, we're in partnership with the Clinton Public School and have some dual degree programs with UALR. So UAMS is interconnected. These programs starting from kindergarten all the way through college.
Wow,
we have them here. We have them here. And as you can see the slide there, our Senior STEM Academy, 6th through 8th grade. So we've tried to intentionally make sure that we don't have any gaps. Now, we had a gap with our freshman and sophomore when it came to pre-medical scholars. So students were able to do summer research. Well, we've addressed that gap this summer. Okay. Next slide. We're rocking and rolling. I'm gonna get y'all off of here.
That's wonderful. I want to join.
Hey. Doc, we can use you. We can use you to coach up some of these young people.
Okay.
Our summer programs are all virtual. The image on the left is our Division for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. Those programs are open right now. I'll make sure everyone who's here, you all have this slide. We have links at the back end of it. Arkansas is a 1-day free. The programs on the left, they actually have a fee to attach to them, but the program on the right, ultrasound and CT imaging, it's free. Students can register for that. That's a 1-day event. Learn about ultrasound, and he also has another program that's for the brain and heart, showing students how physical science is applied in ultrasound technology. And so, which is pretty awesome, because most of the time students don't have that application to it. It's like, oh, why am I learning this? Well, this is why you're learning it. There's a career attached to it. Next slide. We have our College of Pharmacy is kicking off their virtual pharmacy camp. This normally is a 1-week camp that has a fee of like, I think $500-600. Hey, they canceling that. They're making it 3 days and providing you an opportunity, providing students an opportunity to network, high school students to network and actually get to talk to pharmacy students. And that's game changer. Like, yeah, you want to be a pharmacist? Hey, yeah, this is what I do, but also here's my email. Reach out to me. You start running up on those hard courses. Hey, let me mentor you, coach you through this. We also have regional programs around the state. our regional program recruiters across the state, I think it's like 8 of them, they're hosting their Find Your Future in Healthcare. And so that's paid for by a grant. If you know students that are in, hey, the Delta, Northwest, man, hey, South Central, all parts of Arkansas, share that with them. Matter of fact, our programs in DDEI, we're statewide as well. So if you know anyone that need to know about these opportunities that we're talking about tonight, put it out there. I'm telling you, I heard it to the grapevine. Let's get it.
We want to add this to our 100 social media, because we definitely want to get you students to join this.
Awesome. I'm getting fired up. Hey, here's what I'm talking about.
Because I'm gonna tell you, I was in some of those programs in Houston, and I work with some in DC. They really are helpful.
Yep. In the essence of time, we got 4 minutes, and I want to make sure we make mention of these, and we'll share this information on social media. This work, obviously, financial literacy is at the core of all of this. Whether it's financial aid, whether it's financial resource you need to get through college, to even just to live your everyday life. We're hosting workshops. I can drop the information in the chat or share it. Check it out on our Facebook and Instagram. We've been hosting Saturday sessions at 10 o'clock. Share it with your network. Join us, follow us. That we're making an effort to kind of do our part. Also, as Nick said, we've listed a variety of those programs, whether it be through ADE, through DDI, UAMS, and some scholarships that are provided in the community. We'll share that out as well. What I would encourage you to do is to definitely check out our Facebook so we can have those tags, so you can hit the link itself and go into the application. Lastly, want to make a plug. The work we're striving to do can't be done financially without lenders or banks and things of that nature. I've been connecting with First Orion, which is they have a location here now in Central Arkansas, and they're based out of Memphis. They have a second chance program where families, if you're trying to get, back on track, whether it be with your loans or your credit, they will work with you. You can connect with Catherine Jones. She's the business development officer. Her information is below. You can call her, or you can reach out to them via email. But again, this is a great resource for those who are looking to restore their financial record. Again, First Orion, which is in a few blocks from the Capitol here in Little Rock. At this time, we got about 2 minutes. One, hey, I appreciate everybody who stayed on the call. I knew we were going to need an extra 30 minutes. Nick, now I know we're going to schedule it for 2 hours and just kind of let the energy take us. But this is great. This is a great start. I really appreciate those who got on. I think we got up to about 20, 21, which is, hey, that's a great initial conversation. Had some students on, had some educators on. This work hadn't stopped. I would say, while we got time, you can share out, but I'm going to encourage you, Nick put his information in, Darren, I put myself in, but check us out on Instagram and Facebook. I'll have my information there as well, so you can connect with us. But this is the beginning of, I believe, what could be great for us as we try to reteach the new game, to Brother Henley words, reteach the game and take a grassroots approach. So with that, I definitely appreciate everybody for hanging on with us. But this is real meaningful work. And it's going to take a village, to Nick's point, to make sure that we all make sure our babies, our scholars, our families are aware and have the tools they need, so we can matriculate not just to, but through college and career pathways, both here in Arkansas and beyond.
Just let them know also, this is a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah.
Hey, this is a life's work. Hey, there are things that we'll be able to sprint. Hey, we got the near fight and the far fight. I'm loving it. I'm loving it. Yes.
Yeah. So this is Rich. This is Rich. I share my information in the chat. I thought it was going to down me. It's giving me some extra time. So if there are any comments, before we close out, the floor is open. No comments, questions we may have? Appreciate you, Ned. Thank you, Mr. Henley, as always. Hey, speaking of pathway programs, gotta give a plug. Mr. Henley really is the GOAT of all of this. He's been leading by example.
Yes, sir.
And without people like him coming to this state, there wouldn't be a Wendell Scales or a Darren Morgan. So, Mr. Henley, from the bottom of my heart, because you've been there for me. I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
When I didn't know nothing about being a recruiter, we poured into me, and I appreciate you, Mr. Henley. I really do. So he does every year the National Transportation Summer Institute. It's a 2-week long free residential engineering and environmental STEM program. 2 weeks residential free.
Can I just throw this out there? 2 weeks in residential, that's around $2,000, if not $1,500, $2,000 per, if you include staff and all this stuff, per student.
Yes.
You found a sponsor to cover all of that. Man, that's what I'm talking about. Sign me up. I'm telling you, sign me up.
And it's a great opportunity. So again, Ms. Henley, we appreciate you. You could have been anywhere, but you hung in there with us, Arkansans. I know we get on your nerves, but we really appreciate you, Mr. Henley. We really do.
Oh, it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah. But we will be sharing this information on our Facebook. I think it's great. We'll include the links as well shortly after this. As always, we appreciate everybody on. Brother Pettis, Dr. North. Thank you all for your questions, for all those responses in the chat. We really appreciate you. We look forward to future work with everybody. So thanks.
Hello. Hey, Lonnie. Hey, Yogi.